Hello, everybody, once again. Okay, we got 4 viewers. That's not too bad.
Hooray!
I thought we were gonna have no viewers because the show that's on before us. Oh, there's a couple people who are in both channels, so that's nice. But yeah, it's another episode of Grant Draws. Tonight we have Mergo. That's
Hello.
how you pronounce it, right?
Yep, Mergo.
And we also have another guest.
Kitty.
Kitty, Stitch. This is Stitch. I have another
Looking
guest.
the most comfortable.
Doesn't he? He's like, all right, I don't care about your show. I want to sit here and sleep. And we also have Mergo's comic book. And then you also sent this. I don't know if I ordered this, but you
didn't, but you got it anyway.
and the
I'll get into that when we talk about the comic, but yeah.
The little drawings that you did and included in the little package are on my refrigerator now.
Oh, excellent.
As if I was your dad and you just got home from preschool and you gave me these drawings. I put them right on the refrigerator.
You're better than that old son of a bitch any day, Grant.
Good.
Yeah, it's far more compassion than my real dad ever showed me.
So I don't know how to
get into the family stuff right away. Make it awkward.
I don't know how to. What's the word? Segue from that into anything into the business that we have.
Speaking of family trauma, comics.
Right. Well, so as usual, we're sponsored by the Independent Creator Directory. Do you know what? I think I explained that to you last time.
Yeah,
right?
we talked back in January.
Yeah.
It is a very good resource.
Yeah, so Joe Bachman is actually in the chat. So if anybody who's watching wants to get in touch with him and say, hey, I would like a profile on your website, you can find him on Facebook and all the social meteors. I'm going to go run through the chat real quick. So we don't have too much tonight. Joe's saying good evening, and then we have some asshole talking. So forget that guy. Don't listen to him. I was just talking to Joe about whether or not Dawn's show is over because Dawn does a show before me, and her show is way more popular than mine. But it's nice because I'm kind of like the show that was on after Seinfeld. You know what you're old enough to remember Seinfeld.
Oh yeah. The Seinfeld Chronicles as well.
Remember how like there were shows that were on after,
and I couldn't tell you what that is, to be honest, which doesn't help your point any. I don't know.
No, that does help my point because they were usually pretty forgettable shows, but they would always get a bump in the ratings because they were on after Seinfeld.
True.
And that's kind of what I get. I steal Dawn's audience after she's done. So Dan is saying that he's in both channels, and I said you're the most important. I'm not sure if I was saying that to Joe or to Dan, but they're both the most important. Dale Nicholson, is this a friend of yours?
I don't know.
Oh,
you're a person, but hello.
Hi, nice Dale. How's it going? Thank you for tuning in.
Is that probably why? You remember Herman's Head? Is that why anybody watched Herman's Head? Because it was on right after Simpsons.
Possibly.
Or was it on right after Simpsons? I'm gonna have to check. Is it on
I'm
after
not gonna lie to
Simpsons?
you, I don't remember that.
Herman's Head.
If you want me to look it up?
It's not important. I just figured if anybody would know off the top of their head, it'd be you.
What are you implying?
I'm implying you're the #1 Herman's Head fan I know. My girlfriend is right over here, Gray, who has an interview down. If you look down on the channel, she's also got an interview.
I interviewed Gray before as well.
Who's done a really great cover for you.
She did.
Hello, Gray.
Hello.
Does she prefer she or they?
Both are acceptable.
Both are acceptable.
Yeah, so I'm working on the next volume of Memoirs of the Morbid. So Gray might get another message from me.
I'd be happy to if that comes my way.
So Actual Dracula.
Oh, hello. Oh, yes, hello. And hello, Mike. I'm seeing in the chat.
So So I don't know if this is the reference. We've talked before about the apple, right? We both like that movie.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was, I think, like when I was like, "Oh, Grant's good people." Grant knows the apple. I've only recently discovered it. Gray showed it to me,
good.
and it was great. It's pretty fun.
So the apple is my favorite bad movie, and this guy's name, Actual Dracula, reminds me of one of the lyrics in one of the songs where they say I think they're talking about how horrible hell is, because this movie is insane. It's like it's like a it's like American Idol and disco meets, but then it has like a religious. Well,
It's
I don't
exactly
know.
what it's like when you describe it as like, what if Canon Films made Xanadu?
Right.
This is the apple. Although I think the apple came first, maybe.
So, anyways, in this one song, they're describing how horrible hell is, and in one of the lyrics is "meet an actual vampire," and so that's what your name reminds me of. But I don't know if it's a reference to the apple or not.
And hey, you remember Sermon's Head?
He does remember Herman.
See, this is why I like. This is why you gotta hang out with people, like in their, I don't know, early to mid 40s.
Okay, so if I watch Herman's Head, will it hold up? Or
I don't think it held up then, to be honest with you. I barely remember. It's very vague. The last time I saw it was when it was on.
Oh, okay. So you're probably pretty young.
I was 15, 16 years old. Like Julie, voice of Lisa Simpson.
Yeah, they said
Julie Kavanaugh?
further down in the chat, they said something about Yeardley Smith. Or
Yeardley Smith, that's who it is. Sorry.
I don't know how you pronounce that name. And speaking of people whose name I don't know how to pronounce, is it Valad? Valad, cartoonist. She's saying hi to Mergo. And she's
that is Mike. He's good people.
Oh, hi, Mike. And my friend Marvin. Oh, by the way, you know what? Well, we'll get to that. My friend
What is that? We talked about Herman's Head. Let's talk about comics.
He says, I remember Herman's Head. I just wanted to mention that Marvin has a comic book right now, and it is like right on the border of getting funded or not getting funded. I think he has a week to go, and he still needs $1,000. So it's gonna be a close one, guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna put the link to it in the chat. Like I said, guys, this is gonna be like right down to. It's gonna be a close one. We'll just put it that way. Okay, so Mike says that he likes Herman's Head, and he mentioned Lisa Simpson, and he's saying hi to Mike. Actual Dracula is saying hi to Mike.
You pronounced Mike's name correctly.
Everybody's saying hi to each other, and then I posted Marvin's chat, and he goes, "You are the first person in a long time to pronounce my name correctly. Thank you." Okay, well, you're welcome. And then I'm going to bring this up.
All right. Sold out for now, but I just picked up the second printing. I've got to get it all together.
Well, so this is a real zine. Like when we talk about a zine, this is like a lot of people call stuff zines nowadays, but they're not like real zines. Like in my opinion, in order to call something a zine, it has to be done on like a Xerox machine, right?
Yeah. I mean it's zine, mini comic. It's kind of semantics. Independent publication made by me in my living room. It all kind of amounts to the same thing. Yeah, I want to try to get these out fairly regularly. I'm working on issue 5 right now. So I want to put them out, in fairly short order, every like month and a half or so. We're all we're all trying to pinch pennies where we can, but we want to support comics. We love comics. So I understand $10 is a lot to pay at once. So I kind of want to space it out so it's not quite such an expensive thing. But
yeah, I almost said like you put some extra stuff in there, so I don't know
yeah,
if you're gonna do that on every one though.
I do. Yeah, and I kind of show that off here. Basically, what I wanted to do is I included this little mini zine, and this is actually sort of a last minute thing. Little brief side note here. I had just recently gotten laid off. I'm currently unemployed. That's
why I wanted to have you on the show because I
and it's every sale counts, and I am under no delusions that I'm going to be making a living making comics right now. But right now, it's like every penny I get matters. So I'm like, all right, what better time? Really take this seriously. I've got nothing but time. I've got some personal things I need to take care of, but like, I'm treating this like my job, my 9-to-5 job that starts before 9 and ends after 5. But in my like getting laid off from this bookstore, I got we were all like, oh, I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna take that. I'm like, can I take the copy machine? And they're like, sure. I'm like, hell yes. So I have a copy machine.
You got a copy machine.
I got a copy machine. I also got the iPad, which I can't show you right now because it's propping up my phone so I can see the chat. But yes, so which is like, okay, means of production seized. I'm going to take advantage of this. So, I kind of first thing I made was this, like, I made this zine that's just a bunch of ads that I remember from being a kid, like bonkers ads and stuff. I just photocopied a bunch of stuff and just made a zine. And then just like being cute, says, I can't go home again. Not that they'd take me. And I have my teddy bear in the back. And then like the inside, I kind of made a copy of like the end papers, the H.P. Lovecraft compilation. But it was just me like futzing around, seeing what I could do. And then I got the idea of making this, which is just basically, I would like to make one of these because this took like an afternoon to make.
This is kind of like almost like a director's commentary.
And that's kind of my goal is like, this is a weird comic and it's supposed to be weird. And it's me just having fun and being very strange trying to have this character, Can I
tell you what my wife said when she first saw your comic book?
Absolutely.
She goes, it's nice to know that there's people out there still making weird shit.
I'm honored. I'm honored. That's the nicest thing anybody could say. Because I had my stage, and this is the nice thing about really at 44, finally like taking this seriously and showing off. I've already done my like autobio stage. Those are in notebooks no one is going to ever see. I got notebooks of that stuff. None of it is very good, but it's all very like raw, and I liked it, but like I don't feel comfortable sharing that. Is it more like
therapeutic?
Very, and I'm glad I did it, but it was never intended to be seen by other people. But it was just me drawing, and like I never thought like, oh, I'm going to make comics anybody will ever want to read. So it's just like, this is just for me, and like I got a lot out of it. And now I'm like, all right, I want to just do something fun. And, being at the first zine fair I ever had, families, like kids looking at this. Because, like, Bug Girl is a cute little character. I like her. I drew her. I showed her to Gray. Gray's like, oh, I love her. I'm like, well, that's all I need. And I kind of talk about that in here. Because this is so strange and, I want it to be weird. I want it to be fun, but I don't want it to be cold. But it doesn't explain itself very well. So that's why I thought kind of be a little more personable. One thing I like about independent cartoonists is there is personality in everything they do. Like, I get a comic from Corinne Helbert. I get a comic from Josh Pettinger. And I know that they've like held it, they've put it in the envelope, and sometimes they've stapled it. But like, they go through everything and they take a lot of care, and like personality in like indie comics goes a long way, because that's why we're here. We want that like warmth of like holding something another person made. And, you know, you get a, you know, nothing again. I still read Doctor Strange. I still read, you know, whatever. I like my popcorn comics, but like there is kind of like a coldness to them. You know, they're still a corporate product at the end of the day. You know, some of those corporate products are done better. Like a Doctor Strange comic that Tradmore did, that is an amazing corporate product that I will take all day. But it's still, you're holding this thing made by Disney. And it's sort of like, I don't feel very close to them. But then I get like the Santos sisters, and I'm like, oh, care was put into this. People who drew this gave a shit. Sorry if I probably shouldn't swear. I don't know if swearing is okay.
It's all right.
Okay. So like Floating World published it. They care, you know, a lot of care went into this, and it feels like it. You know, you hold it and you're like, this is a comic book comic book that people gave a crap about. And that is why, you know, and I've never seen anybody do this. So I'm like, well, why not? But it is like, I have, you know, the very first drawing I had of the character, like I save everything. So I figure, you know, put it to good use, you know, put all my like early sketches in here, like Bug Girl's Bucket of Guts. I don't know what that means, but it made me laugh one night. And then I just go through and I'm like, I couldn't actually like size this down properly when I was printing it. So I like wanted to kind of show what the whole thing looked like and kind of explain, like, I kind of screwed this up. I learned as I go. And, you know, I go through, you know, little bits and pieces here. So trying to make it a little more personable. You know, Marvel Comics has done a lot of things wrong over the years, but the best thing they've ever done, and this is the only time I'm ever going to compare myself to somebody like Marvel Comics, but they're really good with, like, in the 70s especially, is that community. You know, you read a Marvel comic, you read Stan's Soapbox, you read all this other things, and it's like you feel like you're part of something. You know, it's still a corporate product, yes, but like you felt kind of like, all right, when Stan's talking, he's talking to me, you know. That kind of closeness to who's making the thing, you know, I kind of like. And you know, there's been a lot of comics that I would have liked to have picked the person's brain and be like, what were they thinking when they did this? You know, and I'm sort of new to comics, you know, I'm new to figuring out comics, so when I add a little something. But
yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you put into words much better than I could what I love about comic books. Like I said, with these comic books, you're obviously not trying to get a Netflix deal. You're trying to make comic books that you like, that it's like seeing it into somebody's brain, right?
Yeah. And, you know, this first comic was like really an experiment for me. And I go into it. This is why I like wanted to put this, is like, I think I have interesting things to say about like where my head was when I made this. But I had kind of made a little bit of, you know, other comics, which kind of to segue into something else as well. Since I have that copy machine and I have a bunch of old stuff lying around, I made this, which is like all my old stuff. It's 72 pages, so it's a lot. But I had made some stuff before, but never something that was like I could expand on and like could see myself kind of just keep going. I had some narrative things that I had, you know, I still want to do, and I've been keeping notebooks and writing, but like I don't feel confident in my storytelling quite yet. You know, I'm a better writer than I am a drawer. And that's why I wanted to make this, is because this is there's no dialogue really. There's a little bit, but it's, you know, it's kind of in service of just nothing. It's not a dialogue comic.
It's a series,
but I really
it's a series of weird images.
Exactly. And sometimes that's okay. I kind of had to be like, you know what? Sometimes you just want to make a weird thing, but you don't want to make a weird thing for the sake of being weird, because that's not very fun. and people pick up on that pretty quickly. So I always wanted to do something that was a little more like strange. And then I have this character that I really like, this bug girl, and it kind of clicked. So I'm like, well, I just want to put her through this like weird situation. It's my job to keep her safe, but to like have her go on this adventure. And, you know, I've been doing that, and here's issues 2 and 3. So I've already got 4 is finished. I'm working on 5. So it's a character that like, I like her. And then each issue is just like, all right, what's going to happen in this one? What's the kind of general idea? This first one had the least amount of planning. This is me just starting to draw and like, all right, I'm going to figure it out as I go. And, you know, it concludes it. I think this is a really good first issue. And my goal is to make the second one better and the third one better. And they are, you know, and I would like to think if this is up your alley, they will get better. But I am very proud of this. It's really just an exercise in me drawing and keeping going. If this is a testament to anything, all my early stuff is like I start strong and don't really see a project through. And that's what this was always kind of meant to do. And that's why this first issue is going to be a little more, and not to undersell my comic, I really think you're going to like it. If I like it and I hate everything I make, I know I'm onto something.
That's awesome.
But it is like an exercise in me drawing and just keep going. And I see myself getting better, which is really feels pretty good. And it's just an exercise in getting me to like draw, to ink, to just keep a momentum. That's the thing that kills everything I do is momentum. Because if I start it and I build up a routine, I'm fine. But the minute I break that, kind of sucks. But yeah, it's just an exercise in me finishing something. And I finished it. And then I finished another one and another one and another one. So to me, that's success as far as I'm concerned. You know, I'm not exactly rolling in the cash over here, but I finished a comic, and to me, you know, it's always what I've wanted. So now I got to keep doing it for the rest of my life.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, yeah, people, they're out there in the world. People are reading it. People are enjoying it. That's successful, right?
Yeah, I'd say. And yeah, I like, I just like drawing kind of monsters, and I like drawing slimy creatures. To kind of show you what's coming ahead is, I like video games. I'm 44. We're of a similar age. Probably grew up reading Nintendo Power.
Yeah.
I, from a very young age, would copy the Mega Man levels from Nintendo Power. And then I would like draw my own, and then like draw my own bosses and stuff. That was the first like drawing that I remember. Drawing maps. And then I would draw like, my own Mega Man maps. I would draw over the head Zelda maps. And it was just like, Game Boy wasn't invented yet. So I was just like, all right, this is me playing Zelda while on the road to like my grandma's house, my great grandma's house. So I'm like in the back of the car and I'm drawing a map. And then I'm like, okay, what's around this corner? And I'm basically like playing D&D by myself before I even knew what D&D was. But it was just like me drawing. And this is issue 2, which will be out soon, I would imagine. But
oh, wow.
I very much like Mega Man, and then I get, this,
awesome.
Yeah. And then this page is what is happening on that other page. And it kind of, my favorite thing about comics is directing the eye places, and just getting people, to hear, these are 64 pages, which sounds like a lot. There are some pages that are quicker than others to draw. But I have a page and this is gonna look like a lazy page, but it actually kind of fits because it's this long joke where she's like falling.
Oh, okay.
And like following this like kind of tendril thing, but she's like falling over here. So like the map is on this page, what you're seeing is on this page, and they kind of alternate for about 8 pages. I love that crap. And that's why I love comics. And it's like, this is basically, there's one thing that I love. It's jokes that go on probably a little too long. And there's that. And then there's this big part in the middle here that is just a bunch of creatures saying snert. And it's like 10 pages of that. And I love it. It's just, again, an excuse for me to draw Kirby Crackle, creatures saying snert, and drawing things that look like that. Like, this is exactly why I love comics.
Can I tell you what I used to do when I was a kid?
Absolutely.
My grandfather worked at a paper mill, and he would bring home like these big rolls of newspaper print.
Mm-hmm.
And I would sit at the kitchen table, and I would just like roll out. And what I would draw is I would draw these underground cities. So it would be like, there'd be like a little elevator shaft, and then there'd be like a hardware store, and then there had to be like a grocery store and like a school,
I like
the
that.
playground and stuff. And I would like draw and draw. And the last thing I would draw when I had finished like another row is I would draw like the elevator shaft down to like the next level, and then and I would just draw, and I would draw for like hours and hours. And I never came up with a storyline of why all these cities were underground. Like, I don't know if there was like radiation on top or what, but
I like that.
But I would
kids will find play in anything. Like, you give as we were like packing up our job, as we were like closing our store, we got this huge cardboard box, and I'm like, the like lizard part of my brain that's perpetually 8 years old just lost her mind, because I'm like, that would be the greatest toy if I'm 8 years old and I get this cardboard box, because it's like, this could be a fort, this could be a rocket ship, this could be whatever. Like, you find play wherever. And if you are a person who's like artistically interested, you're going to draw. And like, when you're a kid, everything's play. So drawing is play. So that's how and then like, as you get old, that's when you start to like second guess yourself, and like drawing is like, oh, I'm not good. And you didn't care if you were good or not when you were 8,
Yeah.
I care now. And now it's like, you got to find that fun. And that's kind of what this is, just finding fun and drawing something over and over again. But that's interesting. That's interesting that you have that kind of early. How old were you at the time?
8, maybe 9.
Yeah.
In there.
That's cool. That kind of lines up with how old I was as well. Like,
okay, I'm gonna go through some of these comments.
Sure.
Vlad says, "Seen Mergo drawing every day, and watching her complete back-to-back comics has been inspiring as hell." Oh, he also said that you should be proud.
I am. Thank you very much. Yeah, Mike is a awesome artist. Actual Dracula as well. Awesome artists in their own right. Like, I'm not really. I don't know. The older I get, the less I kind of stay on social media, just because it's no good comes of it. But talking with these two guys, they're very. I don't know. Again, it's the whole thing of like, oh, people who are sort of the similar temperament. You kind of meet them, and really great people, really positive people.
Here it is. Actual Dracula said, "I did the same thing when I was a kid. I essentially made a zine. It was my own version of Nintendo Power."
That's awesome.
That might be fun to do again. I feel like somebody's already done that. I feel like, I know somebody did a new version of Wizard magazine. I don't know if they did a new version of Nintendo Power.
You get Harry Nestor, and who's the guy? Lloyd?
You
Can't
don't have to
remember.
worry about mispronouncing their name.
Well,
there's
I know I
very-
can't remember what because it was the president of Nintendo and like Nestor, who's it was the comic, like 1-page comic.
Oh, okay.
This was like before they even did the like Mario Zelda comics, because those were like kind of a long way. This was just like each issue was Nestor was in some sort of situation that like echoed some game, they were talking about. I don't know.
Oh, so you were talking about how Vlad and actual Dracula are good artists. You have a girlfriend who is a very good artist too.
Yeah.
I don't know. Does she ever give you pointers or?
Yeah. I mean, we're both very like encouraging of the other person, and like I think we both have such drastically different kind of way we approach art and what we kind of, I don't say value, but like where we place value in our drawings and everything. So we're not like, it's more like, oh, this comic goes there, or like, oh, maybe, I don't know, more monster punches. I don't know. But yeah, we're more like just encouraging another person, and it's a lot of asking questions, and not so much I don't think that perspective is right, or oh, I don't know if that arm looks good, because like I'm still figuring this out. That's why I chose to draw a bug girl that's pretty simple, and I infuse her with personality, so I'm not beholden to like proper physical, like human physicality, although I'm getting there, and I've sort of done that, but sort of giving myself a little bit of wiggle room. It's ironic because there's a lot of things that wiggle in these comics, as far as like, all right, this doesn't have to look real. It's kind of straying from your original question, but no, I mean, we more just kind of lift each other up. We're both very sensitive artists, so
I think it's a good idea to have somebody to look over your comic book, especially. I mean, like if you don't have like 20 years experience in comic books, anyways, just to be able to say like, I'm not sure if your intention here was 100%.
Yeah, we certainly. There are times where we do talk about certain things. Gray is making a comic that's very different from mine. Mine is kind of just like it changes from page to page and is a lot of built as it goes. Gray has a very structured comic that is very, plot centric. There's a lot of moving parts, so we do talk about that. She explains kind of her ideas and what her intentions for each scene is, how they kind of fit. So there is a lot of talking about that. A lot of asking questions of like, what do you think about this, that, and the other? I'm not a person who's very good at giving criticisms on things kind of still in progress. And we talk through things to such a degree, but it's all for her comic. So I'm more of just like listening and asking questions. And in that time, she'll kind of make a decision and go from there. So I'm not quite the editor that I could be if I had like decades more experience, but more just a person who's kind of here to ask questions and
So I hope you're not mad at me. Will you give me like 5 minutes to do just a little bit of self promotion?
No problem. Please, by all means. I
realized that the show is like way over half over, and I still haven't done any.
No, absolutely.
And
Beowulf.
Well, first I'm actually going to promote my friend Marvin's comic book. The Edge. Okay, so this is my friend Marvin's comic book. It is called The Edge. It is kind of like G.I. Joe kind of style. I don't know if you read the G.I. Joe comic books when you were a kid. It's
Oh yeah.
I mean, you could totally see all of these guys being action figures.
Yeah, it looks super fun.
The concept behind it is this drug, the Edge. It gives people superpowers, but at the cost of their life and/or sanity. So the more of this drug you take, either it's slowly killing you, or you're going crazy while you do this drug. Um, but anyways, he's on volume 2 of the trade paperback, and like I said, he has a little under $1,000 to go in about a week, which he can definitely do, but I think it's going to be tight. So if any of you guys who are watching have a little bit of extra cash, please back this comic book. I can tell you it is a fun comic book. It's very action packed. It's very bright and colorful. I think you'll like the comic book. Okay. And then I'm going to also mention my next comic book. So my next comic book is still in pre-launch. Sorry, I'm just waiting for my computer to load. And then, okay, I don't want that. I want to go to the pre-launch page. Here we go. Okay. That cat you hear meowing in the background has already been fed, so don't feel sorry for him. He's just trying to get extra food. Okay. Sorry that took me a while. So this is my comic book, League of Cryptids. The idea behind this comic book is the 5 most popular cryptids have to band together to defend Earth from an alien attack. So it's Sasquatch, the Loch Ness Monster, Chupacabra, Jersey Devil, and Mothman fighting evil as a superhero team. Like I said, this is still in pre-launch. So if you would do me a favor, I'm going to put the link in the chat. So even if you guys don't have money to back this, or maybe, I don't know, maybe it doesn't sound like your cup of tea, if you go and click notify me on launch, this actually helps me with the algorithm, even if you don't plan on backing it. Okay, and that is the end of the self-promotion part of the show.
Oh, I love monsters. You know, I love monsters. So that's great. That's a really great idea for a comic.
Thanks. So Vlad is saying we have a giant box in the house that Gabby, his wife, turned into a fort because we couldn't help ourselves. Well, and I'm sure if you have cats, you'll know that cats love boxes. Vlad is saying thanks. I think that was when you said that they were a good comic artist. And Vlad is agreeing with me that Gray is a very talented individual.
Thank you.
Indeed.
That's me posting the Edge link. And Vlad says, oh, I love me some Joe. I think he's talking about when I said that the Edge kind of reminds me of G.I. Joe.
Mm-hmm.
And Vlad is saying that he will check it out. Cool. Thank you so much, Vlad. And Vlad is saying done. So I'm assuming that means that he clicked notify me on launch, which thank you guys. I appreciate you guys doing that. So I'm sorry. Back to what we were talking about.
Oh, sure.
So now, do you plan on doing Bug Girl comics just for years to come, or?
Yeah, I do have, ideas for the next couple. And right now I'm kind of enjoying the momentum. And like, as soon as I started to kind of like I'm like, all right, do I start the next one and do something else? I lost my job and I was just finishing up 4. I'm like, all right, I got to finish 4 so I have, something. I'm like, do I want to start something new? Or do I want to keep going on this? And I want to keep going with, Bug Girl, Sclera. I want to keep making more of those because I can make those in about a month and a half. But I do want to make something else that's completely different. Is a good segue into the thing I just made yesterday. The reason why I have this ice pack on my knee is I'm 44 years old. I can't sit on my ass like I used to. So I put this together. It is a bunch of stuff I've made over the past 3 years, let's say 3.5 years. When I lived in Portland, that's when I really started to get serious about drawing. I just met Gray. They were inspiring me. When I moved to Portland, I met a couple cartoonists. Like, people I was living with were cartoonists. And it's just like, I'm surrounded by people who make comics. And that's why I'm like, okay, I need to do this. So to kind of like just that momentum that kills me, I needed to start doing something. And that's when I learned about like making the 1-page zines. Just take a piece of page, fold it, cut it, zine. So my challenge for myself was like, I want to make one of these every day. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be done. At the end of the day, I got to like 60 thereabouts. So like a couple months, chock-a-block zines. Some were better than others. And by the time I was at the end, I'm starting to like, at the end of the day, I'm starting to get stressed because I haven't done it. That ruins the whole thing. So I'm like, you know what? Experiment complete. I learned something. I'm removing this from my shoulders. I don't need to like, I got what I got out of it, and I got a lot out of it. So I kind of included some of my favorites in here. They range from very like silly to, kind of weird, a couple like sort of emotional ones, but me just, doing a bunch of different things every day. And then, I've got other stuff. I made for a local zine in Portland, I made a little Halloween strip. So I included that here. This entire time, I'm just like, I have a bunch of different ideas, like long form ideas that I don't quite know what to do with. So I didn't really, didn't feel confident about any of them. So I got this job, for a brief time. This website was like, "Ooh, make a weekly comic for us." So I made like a page of comic a week. That was kind of me just doing my autobio thing. I didn't include in this because it's not very good and it doesn't really have any sort of conclusion. It just kind of stops, which isn't very satisfying. It didn't really do anything. But, I'm looking at all these things and I'm like, well, there's one thing I'm pretty okay is I got a bunch of different ideas that are like, you look at each one and they're all very different. They're very, they're clearly mine. They're drawn by the same person, but there's different things going on. All of that is to say that while I do want to do Sclera for a while, because I have like, I've got, a notebook that is, again, helping hold up my iPhone. Actually, I've got this, and it is just, got all kinds of, creatures and all manner of stuff in here, So like, and this is one, I've got another one I've already started. So I can have her going on for a while. But I figure like, all right, I'm confident in that. I want to put out whatever I do next, which I think I know what it's going to be. It's like a choice between a couple of different things, but it's going to be radically different. One person that I really like to look at is one of my favorite working cartoonists, Tom Scioli. Everything he makes is like very different than what he'd done before. Even like GoBots to Transformers, like Transformers is this like intense, you know, kind of just sensory overload. GoBots is almost very like structured, like, you know, it's kind of a tense comic, you know, and they are very different. You look at like I Am Stan and, you know, the Jack Kirby book, they're very different. And like you see all of the things he does and they're all very, you know, unique, but they're all made by him. And that's sort of what I want. You know, I want to make a bunch of different things. I'm not getting any younger. I have a lot of ideas, you know, execution is the problem. That's where I fall into it, into, you know, my hangups about that. But again, just like, all right, I proved to myself that I can finish some things. I just want to like keep that going to another thing. So while I do want to do something different, I just kind of need to build that confidence in myself. It's going to be very narrative. So, you know, while this is very kind of loosey-goosey when it comes to, you know, narrative, if you've ever seen a movie like Mad God, that was a big inspiration for something like this because it's very obtuse.
Oh, cool.
You know, you can tell what's going on, but like there's something else going on that you're not privy to. But, you know, whatever I want to do next is going to be very structured. And I got to work towards that. But, you know, everything I make, I want it to be different, you know, not weird necessarily, but just unique from the thing that came before. So like when you look at the stuff I've made over the years, you're like, all right, this is all very, you know, different. One thing I putting this together, kind of briefly here, I included, if you've ever seen the movie Wild Zero, I started to make an adaptation of that, and really had a lot of fun. It's very violent, but it's like, well, I just want to make a comic, and like the structure's there, the script is there. I just, you know, copy what's in the movie and, you know, make a comic of that. I didn't finish it, but it did make me feel comfortable to keep going with other things. So again, you know, the thing I'm making now, way different than that, you know, and in this, I have a superhero comic, which I want to expand on. But again, it's very different from this. But yeah, I would like to keep on going with that for a while. You know, I would like to look at, you know, maybe a dozen of these, you know, have at least like, I guess like, you know, that Mergo, hasn't made many things, but look at the one thing she did. She made so much of it. You know, if that's the nicest thing anybody could say about me, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing more stuff.
Well, thank you. Yeah. And I am very excited because they do get this first one kind of plot wise is a little peculiar. But this next one is very like, I knew exactly what the story was going to be. And each one of these starts with I have an idea for a very general thing. I'm going to put Bug Girl in that situation and throw as much around that to kind of complicate matters. And this is just, she wakes up and there's like this thing in her living room and she has to deal with it. And she has to follow this umbilical cord out of her house. And high hilarity ensues. And it's just an excuse to draw weird umbilical cords, which is really why you make comics in the first place, as far as I'm concerned.
To draw weird shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, yeah, your first comic book was definitely weird. Well, I guess it wasn't really your first comic book. You've done other.
As far as the world is concerned, you know, it's my first. Like, you make a lot of things before you make your first anything in a lot of ways. Like, a lot of kind of false starts and little bits in here. And, you know, I made a mini comic, you know, that a lot of people saw. It was the superhero one, which I'm really proud of.
Oh, really?
And that I included in this. This is technically my first comic. It's put out by Wigglebird Mailing Club, which is this it's based out of here in Nebraska. Guy Mike Johnson, he puts together each month a different queer trans cartoonists. Published my first comic, published one of Gray's comics, and I owe him a lot. He really got me going with comics, so I'm really proud that he published the first thing I ever did. It gave me a confidence in myself that between Gray and Mike, just I owe a lot to. But yeah, I included that in with this little mini comic collection that I put together. But that was out for that month. So it's not in print anymore. I'm not sure how Mike, that's kind of up to Mike, but it will be in this little collection here when I do put that on sale. But this is my first kind of continuing series. That was my first mini comic. This is my first kind of series. And each comic is its own thing. It's very important for me because each comic, we're all indie cartoonists. Money's tight. So, if I only have one in print, rest assured that whatever that one is, it's a pretty good one to get. There's commonalities in each one. That's been another fun thing about this is I like world building, especially when it's my own thing. So I have a lot of things in here. There is an antagonist to this entire world, and you meet her in issue 1. You really don't know who it is, but I do know there is thought put behind this. It's not me just faffing about. Some of it's me faffing about, but I do have a broad idea of what I want to do. So there are commonalities in each issue. There are threads that kind of continue on, but I want to reward people who pay attention. I'm a big Dark Souls fan, so there's a lot of that in there where it's yeah. It's not necessary for the overall enjoyment of the thing for you to know what this, and this is, but it's there if you want it, and it's there if you look hard enough, and if you pay attention to it and you see that and you remember, I like putting that in there and building this world in this little strange universe that I've created. That's really fun. And really that's my favorite part of making comics is just okay. And that's why I do want to do something else, but I'm having a lot of fun drawing Bug Girl and all these monsters, and I want to make a bunch of other stuff, but I get a lot of comfort out of drawing these comics, and I don't want to deny myself that, I'm too old for that. I'm too old to, all right, I gotta, do this thing that I don't want to do.
Exactly.
I'm sitting there for hours drawing. I may as well enjoy it while I'm doing it.
Yeah, I mean, the important thing is for that to be fun, right?
Yeah. And this to kind of give you a little sneak preview. Where'd it go? I have so many comics all over the place here. Oh, it's on my knee. Sorry, very limited area here. The third one, to kind of give you an idea, this started off as Bug Girl gets a slushie. So of course, because it's me, you see where the slushie comes from, which is this creature. And I said that some pages are fairly don't take very long. A page like this, my style kind of lends itself to drawing quickly. But then I have a page like this, which is just a bunch of these creatures piled up on each other. That's where my I made this kind of this is me trying to do Kirby Tech, making this big slushy machine.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's little Bug Girl getting a slushy. But yeah, it just started off as her getting a slushie and then the consequences of that action. But yeah, and it's like, drawing in black and white. They're like, this is me just showing, like, show and tell. Like, pages like this, I'm really proud of, and kind of figuring out what I like in art and what I think I, can pull off. And there are a lot of pages that are just like, let me see what I can do. What does this look like? Some of this is like, what does it look like if I use, if I flick some ink on it, watch Jim Mahfood, like, all right, how am I going to do, a toothbrush? How am I going to ink it like this? It's a lot of experimentation. So like, just like, what is she's already kind of got a silhouette, and this was like one of the first pages where I look at and I'm like, I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud that I did that. That's good. And you have to like take those moments, where you don't want to be like too full of yourself. Otherwise you're just like, not be very discerning of what you do. And nobody likes anybody who's like super full of themselves, but you have to like, if you're going to be honest with yourself as an artist, you have to like acknowledge when you've done something really cool, even if it's by your own metric. If I think it's cool, well, it goes in the comic. And that's growing up as a kid with not a lot of self-esteem. Thanks, Mom. And I think that's why it took me so long to draw, if I'm being honest, is just have your mom's voice in your head the whole time. You're just like, it's not very good. You're not going to get any money. Well, I know that. And I know that, but let me have this, Mom. And finally at 44, I think that's gone for the most part. Not to get too personal about that, but yeah, you just have to like, and I found like, oh, that's something that I think I can do fairly well. So kind of continuing on, her leaving the store, and, pages like that are fun. Also, figuring out a way to just keep going with the page. And sometimes not every page has to take you a week, sometimes a page can be an hour, 2 hours, You get a couple pages and then you're like, all right, I'm just going to like indulge on this page and draw a bunch of little bits and bobs. Finding my own kind of work pace that's been a fun thing, figuring out, I was like, all right, I already know I can do this. Like, how can I, on the one hand, it's, how much can I get done? And the also is, I'm not young, I need to like take breaks, and disciplining yourself when you're kind of your own boss is a bit of a difficult hurdle.
Yeah. So I'm gonna finish up reading the comments. Vlad is just letting us know that he has to go because he wants to make dinner, and he says that he loves seeing you talk about your comics.
Thanks.
And he loves you and Gray, and he said thank you to me.
Golly.
Dawn is getting in right at the end, and she's saying sorry we went over it. Don't worry about it, Dawn. It was a great episode.
That worked out.
People can watch in the rerun if they want to. And I think I'm going with that. Is there anything else you wanted to say? Like,
no, I don't think so. If you would like to follow me, I am Lilith Fair on Instagram, LILITHFAER. That's where you can find a link for my Patreon, which is Lilith Fair Press. You can find my Big Cartel, which will have this on sale hopefully within the next week. I'm currently sold out, which makes me feel really good that like these are going out into the world. I sold out the first print run, which makes me very proud.
That's awesome.
I'm very happy. But I got some more. I just need to get some more mailers. Finding photo mailers is very difficult. For some reason, those are not readily available, and I don't know why. But once I get those, I'll be able to put them back on sale and hopefully get this on sale as well. Collection of a bunch of stuff. I'm I made this in the course of a day. Really proud of it too. But yep, I appreciate you having me on the show. That it means a lot. I really enjoy talking to you.
Yeah,
Talk to you about Herman's Head or whatever, Godzilla, all manner of stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check out Herman's Head. Well, or you said?
I mean, I say that only because I remember it as like a weird thing that was on while I was a kid, but I cannot vouch for the quality of Herman's Head as I have not watched it in 30 years.
You have my curiosity.
Well, in a world of YouTube, I'm sure it's out there somewhere.
Exactly.
But yes, thank you very much for having me on.
All right, Mergo, and I'm going to go Google Herman's Head. Everybody, please come back next week. I can't remember who the guest is next week, but I'm sure that they will be great.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you again for being on the show, Mergo.
Oh, yes. Thank you again, Grant. And hope to talk to you again soon.
Good night, everybody.